for warming up a fireman's ladder. Wait a second. Wouldn't that be a ladder blanket? The uprights are going to be made out of maple, and the rungs are going to be made out of birch and cherry. This was all Rockler had in stock at the time, and I really needed to get stock right away in order to finish in time. So I took what they had. The uprights are only going to be 5 feet long, so we need to measure the 5 feet and mark where we're going to cut. And figure out where our rungs are going to go so we can mark the drilling locations. Then we need to mark a center line. I'm going to use a 7/8 inch Forstner bit and drill it a 1/2 inch into the upright. To make sure the uprights are exactly the same length, I'm going to use a square to square up the ends and use a clamp to make sure they don't move. And then I'll cut them both at the same time on the table saw to their final length. Then I round over the sharp corners on the router table so it doesn't snag any blankets. I made the decision while I was routing the edges that I want to do kind of a round over on the top here so it could be set at pretty much any angle. So I just found something about the right size. I'm going to mark it on all ends. Then take it over to the bandsaw, cut it out, and then take it over to the belt sander to bring it down to the line. There's no getting around it. Gotta sand. Alright, I'm setting up to cut the rungs at 15.5 inches. The uprights are 3/4 of an inch, and I drilled in a 1/2 inch on each side, so that means there's 1/4 inch that'll be on each side. 15.5 plus the 2/4 will make an even 16. So I bought a 1 inch diameter dowel from Rockler. And here I've got the 1 inch hole from a Forstner bit and a 7/8 inch hole from another Forstner bit. So if I take the 1 inch dowel and put it in the 1 inch hole, there's a lot of play in there. So much so I can't glue that in. But a 7/8 inch hole is too small. So what I've come up with is a little jig that lets me put the dowel in here and bring it up to the router and spin it until I get to the right diameter, raising the bit as I need to. Yeah, it would be easier to do this on a lathe, but I don't have a lathe. So now it fits in there real nice. Well, screw-ups happen, and I made this tenon a little too narrow. It fits in the hole very sloppily, so I got to beef it up a bit. I took some shavings from a piece of maple. I tried doing it from some cherry, but it was too brittle. But since this won't be seen anyway, we could just use maple. I'm just going to glue the shaving on around here and then see how it fits, and then I can add more if I need to. It was easier to sand everything while it was apart. So now when we go to glue everything together, I'm worried about glue squeeze out on the freshly sanded wood. And I want to prevent having to go back in and sand too much, so I put tape around the holes. I've got an octagon around each hole because we have to worry about the tenon shoulder on each rung. You don't want any tape getting stuck under that with the glue, otherwise it will look horrible. So there might be a little bit of glue squeeze out on the wood, but it's small enough, and I've mitigated enough with all the tape so that we shouldn't have to worry about it. I want to take the tape off before the glue has a chance to dry and stick the tape to the wood. I'm going to be using this wood stain. It's Jacobean colored. I'm putting it on the white oak, and the rungs are masked so I don't have to worry about getting anything on them. Now all the stain is on there, nice and shiny. I let it soak in. So now I've let the stain soak in for a good 5 minutes or so. Time to wipe off the excess. Now I know some of you might be upset that I covered up such beautiful white maple with such a dark stain. Why not just go with a darker wood, you may ask? Well, this is pretty much what my mom already has around her house, is the dark stained maple. So I'm just matching what she already has. Now finally, to put some polyurethane, I followed the instructions on the can and I put on 1 coat. Two coats. Three coats. With a light sanding with 320 grit sandpaper in between each coat. And remember that wipe-on poly is an oil-based finish, so it generates heat as it dries. Put your used rags on the concrete floor or someplace else where they won't catch fire as they dry. So here's the final product, doing what it's supposed to be doing, displaying blankets. And now for a bit of a retrospective, things I would have done differently. I would have put the stain on the uprights before gluing the rungs into the holes and leaving the holes without any finish in them whatsoever. And then I would have put the poly on after everything was all glued up. I had some issues with the stain getting behind the tape and getting on the rungs, and I had to sand that off. I cut that out of the video. But that would have made things a heck of a lot easier. But all in all, I think it worked out well. It looks pretty good. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. I think my mom will like it. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you like this kind of content, and we got plenty more coming, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and then hit the little bell icon next to it so you get notified whenever we upload new content. If you think someone might be interested in making this or seeing the idea of it, please be sure to share this video with them. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll answer them as best I can. And as always, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one.